Are there any lower vibrational civilizations in physical reality that prevent you from using a medium like Daryl to interact with them?
There are some civilizations of lower density that, because they are experiencing a lower density path, might by definition prevent us from being able to connect with them. This is one of the reasons why we have also said those of a certain frequency that are not matching our frequency may eventually find that we will not be able to continue communication with them on that level as we evolve and you evolve. They may simply have chosen a path that puts them on a version of Earth where no such contact is probable.
So originally, we would have become Sasquatch without ET intervention.
Well, yes, but that's a different issue.
So for now, like, what would our trajectory be at this point without ET intervention?
You would be harmoniously in tune with the idea of nature and other dimensions of experience as Sasquatch. Just as the Sasquatch that exist on your planet now are.
Is that true that some Sasquatch has taken some people or sort of kidnapped them? And
We would not use the term kidnap, but some rare human individuals have been allowed to transition into other dimensional spaces, other levels of physical reality from time to time with Sasquatch. On most occasions, they are brought back. If they are not brought back, this is up to the choice of the human.
what happens during what happens? Where are they taking them? What's going on?
As I said, it's a slightly different version of physical reality, a slightly different dimension of the idea you call physical reality on Earth. Remember when we talked about the idea that Earth has many different shells, many different levels to its physical reality? Well, some of those allow beings to experience a type of physical reality without it necessarily being the frequency of your physical reality. So they may experience a slightly more harmonious, more natural version of Earth. But again, it depends upon the reason why they may have included the choice to visit those places with the assistance of the Sasquatch. We cannot necessarily say there is an absolutely overarching general reason that is true for everyone that may have had that experience, but those experiences are extremely rare anyway.
Okay, that's very interesting. Are there any trees on our planet that are similar to ones on your planet? And we've heard that you can communicate with other humans through connecting with trees. So
Yes.
is that the same kind of tree that you would have, or?
Some of them. Some of them are from other planets. Some of them are actually from your planet. Remember, we're in a sense an artificially created civilization, and that includes the planet too, where different things were brought from different areas and seeded on our planet to create the environment and the ecological system that we have. So there are some animals from your planet, some trees from your planet, certain other things from your planet, and things from other planets as well, to create a harmonious environment for the hybrid race that we have become. So yes, there are some things. We do have some pine trees on our planet. We have some other kinds of trees that are similar to yours. But of course, some of them have also evolved on our planet and have become slightly different than they are on your planet, even though they originated from your world.
Um, yeah, pine trees have come up a lot because they're like antenna. I think you described that one time.
Yes, they're like antennae. Well, all trees are, but the pine trees specifically are a type of antenna that functions as a go-between in a diplomatic or ambassadorial sense between the plant kingdom and other kingdoms on your planet, to use that term loosely.
In our nature, it seems to be the phenomenon of survival of the fittest, and the weakest don't survive. How can we look at such an antagonistic relationship here on Earth?
Well, first of all, don't look at it as antagonistic. That's a definition. Nature doesn't view it that way. There are things that need to be cleared out that are not necessarily allowing nature to continue or evolve in the most efficient way. So it's not an antagonistic system, especially when you come from the spiritual point of view, that everything exists forever. Nothing ever really dies. but you can trade things out. In a sense, I'll use this simplistic analogy of saying that when you replace a part on your automobile so it runs more efficiently, that's not an antagonistic system. You are simply allowing the vehicle to operate more efficiently. So nature is similar in the context of letting go, letting those parts that are not necessarily operating efficiently transition into spirit so they can, in a sense, be revitalized and perhaps even, in your terms, linearly return in a more efficient way. Remember, nothing ever completely goes away. It is more often than not, in the simplest way to phrase this, although again, remember, this is a linear phrase, more things are recycled than eliminated.
Right. Is exercise necessary to stay healthy here on Earth?
For the most part, yes, some form. Because again, when you move in some way, shape, or form on a regular basis, you are allowing the cellular structures in your body to osmotically pump and move things through your system in a way that is necessary for you to thrive. So some form of movement, one way or another, will allow the pumping actions of the systems in your body to supply all the things necessary for you to thrive in physical reality.
So another question about being here on Earth and recognizing that at any given moment, there's a certain amount of suffering that's going on between animals and people. And then there's this birth and new life and joy and happiness that's also going on here.
Yes.
And for people who are attracted to being positive and being in the light, so to speak, how can they look at the pain and suffering without feeling bad about being here or being afraid that it might happen to you?
You have to learn the vibration of compassion. You have to understand that every path is different. And again, as we just said, everyone is an eternal, infinite, indestructible spirit. Many spirits will choose certain paths that may look like suffering to you, but for very specific purposes of learning different kinds of experiences and lessons and transforming and overcoming them, which allows them to feel their power. And therefore, again, the idea is that everything can be used in a positive context. When you succumb to the idea of feeling bad about it, instead of feeling compassion for those people and helping where you can, helping them to learn how to transform those things, then all you're doing is adding more negativity to the things that they've already chosen to experience. And again, remember, it may simply be a matter of education. If they don't have the toolkit to understand how they can transform these things, you can give it to them if you do, and that would be an expression of your compassion. Not that they have to listen to you, but at least you've given them an opportunity to transform these things and gain the wisdom and the knowledge that they sought in the first place by allowing themselves to buy into belief systems that brought them into those kinds of experiences. So, from compassion, you can be a teacher. You can be a living example of what they could choose. But again, you have to allow them the opportunity not to choose it, because you see them as a powerful being that's learning a lesson and not as somebody who is actually weak enough to suffer endlessly and not know why they're there. Everything will be reconciled and everything will be used to positive intent one way or another at some point, whether physical or non-physical. Nothing is wasted.
So are the greater density level planets, is there always pain associated with those lower density or higher densities and suffering? And so what is it unique about this level of density that seems to bring about so much negativity and pain?
Well, this level, this vibration offers the opportunity to experience or relate to these ideas of resistance within the natural self in a painful way. Where there are a few other realities that may experience ideas of resistance, but it doesn't translate as pain. But the vibrational reality of Earth at this time and the way you're experiencing it offers the opportunity to experience resistance as the phenomena you call pain.
So here it functions as a kind of guiding mechanism if you're experiencing
Yes.
pain.
Because when you experience pain, that's a very good guiding mechanism for letting you know you're out of alignment with your true vibration.
Um, how do human bodies utilize the electromagnetic field of Earth? And are there other untapped uses for the electromagnetic field?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, the human body can utilize it in a number of ways. First of all, you can use it for directional orientation, just as many animals do. You can utilize it to accelerate and spin up, shall we say, the electromagnetic field of your own bodies that is generated by your body, so that in matching the frequency of the Earth's electromagnetic field, you can feel a little bit more energized by mirroring it and tapping into it. Eventually, you will learn to use the electromagnetic field, as a few isolated individuals throughout your history have learned to use it, to generate unlimited free energy. There are many different things you can do with the electromagnetic field that you have yet to realize.
Okay, and also for healing?
Yes, of course.
So basically for free energy, for healing.
Yes.
Sounds good. A lot of people have questions about soul contracts.
Yes.
Like, one question that's come up is, if you make a soul contract on a certain level, and then you're here on Earth and you're living your life and you decide you don't want that soul contract anymore, how are you empowered to change that? Do you have to go to the higher level to do it? Can you just make a statement, I decide I want a different contract? Or how
No,
does that work?
you have to find a way to learn the lesson that the contract originally intended. You can always find a different way to learn the lesson, and you don't have to do it while you're physical, but you've made a commitment, and the commitment, in a sense, shall we say, has been chiseled into the fabric of existence itself. So the purpose, the intention behind the original soul contract must be fulfilled, but it can be fulfilled in any number of ways. But you can't avoid the commitment that you made in the contract, the reason for the contract. You don't have to do it in the original way you designed the contract, but you do have to fulfill the commitment you made behind the purpose you originally intended the contract to fulfill.
And is often that contract basically about becoming self-empowered
In general, yes.
and self-acceptance?
Yes, but it can have some specific attributes to it that also you have deemed were important for you to learn as a soul. So you may still have to find ways in which to learn those specific things, but again, you can find other ways to do that. As long as you fulfill the intention of the contract, you don't have to fulfill the letter of the contract.
Sort of like the idea of, you'll walk down the hall
Yes.
and you can do it many different ways,
Yes.
but ultimately whatever was behind the initial contract that you created for being here,
Yes.
that
Yes,
is
because
something you have to
knew
play
what
in.
you were doing. You knew what you were doing when you chose the intention behind the contract. So attempting to avoid the intention is a form of resistance to the true self. But there are many ways you can go about learning the intention, fulfilling the lesson that you chose to create that contract for. You don't have to do it with the letter of the contract, but it is important to do the intention behind it, because you deemed that to be absolutely essential when you created the contract, and therefore it's an essential part of your being as a unique reflection of all that is, and you can't avoid being your true self. You can delay it, but you can't avoid it.
So when you choose to experience life on Earth,
Yes.
one thing you choose is the family you'll be born into.
Generally, yes, for a variety of reasons.
And you'll have some recognition that that particular circumstance, while you can't control the way the negativity is expressed, in a sense, because people come here and then they go, well, why am I here and I'm suffering? I'm in this
Yes,
terrible
yes.
family.
Stop. Yes, you cannot control the way that the negativity may be expressed toward you. You can control the way you choose to receive it. And that's what counts. Because again, remember, it's not about what happens, It's about what you do with what happens that determines how you experience your life. So, no, you can't control the way things may come at you, but you can control the way you receive them when you understand that that's what makes the difference. And that may very well be, in most cases, the very lesson that you chose to learn, to control how you receive what is given to you.
So it also comes down to trusting your higher levels of yourself and recognizing that the choice that was made to be here, regardless of what circumstance you currently find yourself in, that it was designed for you to evolve and to become more of who you truly are.
Yes.
And so it's not a good idea to like get mad at your higher levels and say, well, why did you do this to me, or feel victimized by that?
Yes.
Or to be, in a sense, angry at the beings that are in your reality that you may feel put upon by.
Yes, in general. Although do remember, some people have chosen to experience the idea of victimhood as their life choice, so that they can add that to their soul and have a deeper understanding of all those who may be experiencing it in a way that perhaps someday they can help with. So sometimes a person may choose, this life is going to be about experiencing what it's like to be a victim. And I'm not going to change that, because I will deal with the lesson that I've learned from doing that somewhere else. So I'm not saying it's impossible to have a single, shall we say, motive for that particular life and not necessarily be able to change it. That's relatively rare, but it's not impossible. So again, you have to allow for all probabilities and all reasons for the choices that are made. But if you find yourself receiving information that gives you the opportunity to change it, more often than not absolute, but more often than not, the fact that you've attracted information that says you could change that state of being and that mindset is an indication that you can, in this life, do so. Otherwise, if you really were committed to the idea of only being a victim, you would probably never attract any information that would allow you to actually change that state, unless that's part of your victimization theme, is I will see all this information that could tell me I could change, but I absolutely will refuse to connect to it. That's another level of playing the victim to the hilt. But again, that's relatively rare.
I'm actually pretty surprised. So actually you can choose a life here that involves victimhood. And then you may or may not be able to change that depending on
how it serves you not to do so, and how it may serve others not to do so when you finally are capable of applying the lessons you learned by being a victim. But again, if you do attract information that could change that state, it's unlikely that you are absolutely committed to that state alone.
Okay. Would you consider victimization like if someone that's born with a handicap or something like that?
No, not necessarily. No.
Okay.
No. Again, there are a million reasons why someone may choose that, and they don't necessarily all have to do with victimization.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, it's very interesting to understand how we think at the higher levels.
Yeah.